Hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? What's everybody up to today? There we go. Crank that over that way just a little bit. Turn that down just a little bit. What's happening? Let me get the chat going here for those of you that are watching. We got anybody? We do. We got somebody in here. All right, dude. We got Broken Chains. What's going on, dude? How you doing, man? What's new? We're gonna do a little bit of Sean. What's happening? It's going great. Actually, I just got back from the gym and feeling pretty good, and thought tonight would be a good night as ever to do a little talk on the GL2T TransTrem guitar. I'll show it to you guys in a little bit. Who else we got in here? Broken Chain, Sean, Nick. What's up, dude? How you doing? Fun talking to you this morning. I was actually working, so I didn't mean to cut you off on that. I had a few minutes to chat with you, and then I had to scoot. But yeah, keep me posted on that. That's pretty cool. So, anyways, what are you guys up to? Ben Coombs, what's going on? Hey, Ben, are we still on for, I gotta look at my calendar, are we still on for your show? Hold on one second. We were on for Ben Coombs, let's see. The 24th. That would be this Sunday at 8 p.m. Are we still on for that, buddy? Because I got it on my calendar. If we are, that's great. If not, no problem. Okay, perfect then. Awesome. Yep, then I got it on my calendar. We're good to go. All right, David Ennis, what's going on, dude? Cheers to you as well. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. Well, the new-fashioned way. Cheers. And it is 6 o'clock, so it's definitely past 5 o'clock somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, me too, bro. Me too. Definitely look forward to it. Broken Chains, how many guitars do you have? I have 32 guitars right now. And most of them are Van Halen guitars, with an exception of my Les Paul, my Yngwie Strat, and let's see, my Kramer Fairing, that's kind of a Van Halen guitar. And my purple 82 Pacer with a Rockager, and again, that's kind of a Van Halen guitar. Half, what's going on, dude? Blackie, what's new? What's going on? Keep up with the chat here. Clayton James Hicks. Today is Wolfgang Wednesday. Yes, it is, Clayton, but it is also Whacky Whammy Bar Wednesday. We'll get going here in a minute. We're just having some fun messing around. I'll give you guys a little bit of, Wacky Wiggle Stick Wednesday. Actually, I should have called it Wacky Wiggle Stick. I called it Wacky Whammy Bar Wednesday, but Wiggle Stick, maybe I'll change that. But we'll just start you guys off with a little Get Up. Anyways, get my phone going here again. But Me-Wise Magic, yeah, that's a fun song to play. I actually was playing that a few months ago. I haven't played Me-Wise Magic in a while. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff with pretty much pertaining to the TransTrem. But I guess we can get going. We'll go for maybe an hour or so tonight, this afternoon, whatever. What are you guys going to do? You're playing your Kramer earlier today, Rob. What kind of Kramer was that, Ben? These necks no, they're actually not that bad. Or at least this one isn't. On the broomstick model, the GL, it's not a real chunky neck. I mean, it's not small, but I mean, it's not chunky at all. And I thought I had this thing on Do Not Disturb. So, anyways, let's see. Who else we got in here? 1986 Focus 6000. Nice. Awesome. Oh, is that the guitar you got from Johnny? Okay, yeah, those are great guitars. I used to have a couple of Focuses. It's been a while. It's been a long time. But before we get rolling here, there's one thing I forgot to grab. And that's one of my books that has a picture of one of the other TransTrems. And I just want to have that handy so you guys can see that. Okay, here it is. Because I did come prepared tonight. All right, so we'll get rolling. So first off, welcome everybody. It is Wednesday. I had my new microphone here. I'm not wearing headphones. I think if I was wearing headphones, it might be a little bit, maybe I could hear, the sound a little bit more. But I got the green light, and they say the green light means that it's working properly. So that's pretty cool. So hopefully the sound is better. And awesome, Hef. Thank you. So those of you guys that like my show and Johnny and all those guys when I do the show with them and Dave and Jay and everything, maybe my sound will be a little bit better. I'll probably wear headphones because I can plug them right into my iRig here. So awesome. Thanks, Ben. Everybody says it sounds good, so that's cool. Nice. So anyways, hope everybody's doing well. Thank you guys for joining. I was going to do this show all along this week. I told you guys I was going to do this. Wasn't quite sure exactly what day I was going to do it on, and my schedule just kind of cleared up today. I got done with everything I needed to get done with work and everything, and I said, hey, what better night to do it on than on a Wednesday night, and do it before Johnny and Dave go live tonight, and Jay. So it's going to be on the Steinberger guitar pertaining to Eddie Van Halen's usage of the guitar, and we can get into some other stuff as well. We can talk a little bit about Ned Steinberger and things like that, and we'll talk about obviously the TransTrem and different things of that nature too. So what I'd like to do, as well as answer your questions, is let's talk about the beginning of this guitar as far as when it came into Eddie's hands. Now I don't know when these things first started getting made. I want to say sometime around 81, 82, the Steinberger started coming out. Now the TransTrems I don't believe started coming out until like 83, maybe 84. But I know the Steinberger bass guitars, they call these the broomstick because they look like a broom. That's why they call them broomstick guitars, no head on them. And they make other types. They make, fuller size guitars. But all the Steinberger guitars, most of them, 90% of them, I think, or maybe all of them, do not have a headstock. They use the double ball system, which we'll talk about. But these guitars really started to kind of come out, in the early 80s, and basically they were really ahead of their time. They were kind of like an alien guitar, so to speak, and they certainly are a very good travel guitar, but they're so much more expensive than just a cheapo travel guitar. They really are. And they are good travel guitars, believe me. I've had this guitar for a good 20 years, maybe 18 years. And we've talked about it before on Johnny and Dave's show. You guys have seen it, but we're going to spend more time talking about Eddie's guitar, and we'll get into this one after. And hopefully you guys can pick up some information today. Maybe I'll learn something too. Yeah, Ben, they were huge guitars in the 80s, and they were very much ahead of their time. Now, Ned Steinberger was if you guys YouTube the guy, he's like a genius. He's a musical genius, but he's like more of an engineer than anything else. And the guy, as Eddie said one time in one of his interviews not so long ago, he almost over-engineers things, which I don't know, is necessarily possible, but it's one of those things where he had this idea, okay? Now the Steinberger guitars came out and it was essentially a headless system. And they used double ball strings, and we'll go over that too. And we'll show you how they are in the different companies that manufacture them. And the TransTrem guitars came out basically, like I said, I want to say around probably, like I said, maybe 82, 83. So Eddie was aware of these guitars well before the 5150 tour. And from what I understand, Eddie was actually using the guitars during, I don't know if he had it on the road with him, but he was using them in '84. Maybe towards the end of the tour, maybe towards the beginning, I don't know. But he was definitely using them after the end of the '84 tour, before 5150 came, because we think that he had Summer Nights worked up during the '84 tour, or sometime shortly thereafter. So, I mean, we can't pin it down exactly. But Eddie was definitely using these guitars at that time. So Ned Steinberger basically came out with a system where, called the TransTrem, okay? And the Steinberger guitars, all of them, use what's called double ball. So they have a ball on the headstock end, or headstock-less end in this case, and they have a ball on the bridge end. And essentially what that means, and most of you guys already know this, but for those of you that are maybe new to this guitar, just a little bit of information, essentially what that means is it means both ends of the string have a ball. So you don't need to do any cutting. You don't have to cut the string to trim them like you would on any other type of guitar. Okay? You insert the ball in the end of the headstock here. You can see they're all different colors, okay? And then you insert it in the end of the bridge, and you back your tuner off. It's pretty much almost as far as it'll go. And what that does is that pushes it forward, okay? And these strings are pretty much all set to a certain tolerance, and they're set to a certain length. So like I said, you don't have to cut them. So they fit in, they have plenty of slack, and then when you tighten the tuner, and it's no different than, you know, with a winder at the end of the headstock, with the standard type tuners, Godot, Schallers, whatever, Grovers, it tightens the string, okay? And pretty much all Steinbergers are like this. Like I said, they have headless systems, and they don't have a headstock, so there's no tuners on the headstock. All of your tuning is done here, okay? All of your tuning is done here. Thanks, Al. So it's almost like if you take a Floyd Rose guitar, right? Take like an Eddie Van Halen Kramer. And it's almost like totally alleviating your nut, totally alleviating your headstock. You put the string in, and all you got to do is use your fine tuners. Now these are not fine tuners, these are the standard tuners. But they pretty much are positioned in the same spot as a fine tuner on pretty much any type of a Floyd type system, okay? So that's pretty much how they work. And we'll get into the details of how the TransTrem is made up here in a few minutes. But essentially, so Ned Steinberger says, I have this idea, all right? And I don't know if he had talked to Eddie prior to this. I'm not sure. We're going to talk about Eddie working with Steinberger and all that here in a very short few minutes. But essentially what happened was he wanted to come up with a design where you could use a whammy bar, a wiggle stick, and you could lock the bar up into different keys, okay? Now, basically, you essentially have 7 settings, and let me verify that, just to be sure. You essentially have 7 settings, okay? And basically what that means is you can lock the bar up, okay? In the middle, okay, is standard, okay? And you can lock the bar up 3 steps, or you can lock it down 3 steps, okay? And you have standard, which is in the middle. So you have a total of 7 different tunings you can play in, okay? So that's pretty much kind of how it works. Let me just verify this. I'm sorry, I take that back, guys. I take that back. There's a total of 6 settings. I apologize for that. It's my bad. There's a total of 6 settings, not 7. So the center notch of, and I'm telling you this so we can tell you how it works. Here's your TransTrem bar, okay? Now what it is this little, the bar is attached to this, it screws in here, okay, but it's got this little lever right here, and on that lever are essentially 6 notches, okay? Now standard is right in the middle, like you'll see right now, okay, I'm playing basically I'm playing basically in standard. The bar is locked right in the, it's free, okay, but it locks into standard. Okay, that's standard, okay? So I can lock the bar up two steps, okay? But I can lock it down 3 steps, okay? So when I'm playing in standard, okay, all I got to do is pull up on the bar and I can go up or down. It's a floating system, all right? And, oh, my phone up here again. And I can lock it down 3 steps or lock it up 2. So like I said, there's a total of 6 steps. I just want to make that very clear. Okay, and we'll go through that after. Now, what happens when you lock the bar up and down? Well, what happens is you're playing in different keys, okay? So obviously neutral in the middle, which is also how you tune that guitar. You always tune it in standard, and then you can go up and down. And fine-tuning the thing is an absolute nightmare. And I have all this information that I have to refer to when I fine-tune that guitar, because I can't even remember. It's a nightmare to be able to do that. And Ben Coombe says, is each notch a full step or a half step? It's actually... I'm looking at the paperwork right here, and it's a transposing chart. So when you're in the middle, okay, in neutral, you lock it up 1 step, 2 steps. Okay, so each notch is a full step. Okay, not a half step. So you lock it up a full step. It doesn't do half steps. Okay, so you lock it up. You can lock it up 2 steps, 1 step, 2 steps, or you can lock it down 1, 2, 3 steps. And here's the details on that, so you guys can see. Okay, so here's your standard, right? EAD, GBE, and you can lock it up 1 full step or 2 full steps. Summer Nights is played 2 steps locked up, all the way up, okay? And in the breakdown, I believe Eddie locks it down 2 steps. It's down 2 steps, or maybe it's 1 step. I gotta figure it out. It's either locks it down 1 step or 2 steps. That's the part where it's, you know, da 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 da. It's in the solo. I don't believe he ever uses anything where it's locked down 3 steps. He may use the bar that way, but that's kind of how it is. So every notch is a full step, okay? And that's kind of how that works. So let me just check out real quick. Sonia, nice. I'm always learning stuff too. I mean, sometimes I do these shows and I haven't even talked about this guitar in so many years, so it refreshes my memory as well. And I've had it for like 18 years, been playing it. It is. It's so innovative. So Ned Steinberger came up with a bridge that you could lock up or down in different keys. Okay, a total of 6 steps, like we said, 2 steps up or 3 steps down. Total of six steps. It was total, including, you know, neutral and standard. And they designed it in such a way, and this is where the double ball system comes in this really incredible bridge, where when you lock it up, each string goes up or down in tune with itself. So it's not like a regular Floyd where you hit a chord and you drop the bar, okay? Or Eddie, you can't pull his bar up because the Floyd's mounted flush on the body, but some Floyds, you know, they're floating. Or if you pull up on the bar, I mean, you can't really tell, but you kind of can, because if you listen to you actually can. If you listen to a regular guitar and you hit a chord and it's a floating Floyd or Kaler or whatever, and you pull up on the bar, it sounds cool, but it doesn't quite sound like this. Like you can tell this goes up as a chord. Like I hit a basic A chord, right? That goes up in tune with itself. So it goes up as a chord. So it's kind of like you're playing slide guitar. And it does the same thing if I go down. So let's just take a second and actually go through the steps here. All right? So here's standard, right? Okay? So if I lock it up 1 step. Okay? Basic A chord, lock it up 2 steps, all the way. Here it's still in tune with itself, and that's what Summer Nights is. Okay, so that's how he starts out on Summer Nights, and then he just drops it down. Okay, now if I lock it down 1 step, let's see. Look at that here, make sure. Okay, there's 1. Okay. It starts getting real grungy, you know. Walking down another one. Okay, so it's real grungy. Let's lock it down the final step, all the way down. Sounds a little kind of, it sounds might be a little bit out of tune. I might need to kind of play with it a little bit. Okay, it doesn't really sound that good this low. It almost, the strings are almost so slacked, you know. It's so hard to play that way. It's really hard because the strings just don't have any. They don't have any really a lot of tension on. They're so look at they're so floppy that way. Okay, so now I take the bar, I unlock it, and I just come back into standard. Now I'm back in standard tuning again. You know. Okay. So it's a really cool invention. So Ned Steinberger basically figured out how to make a guitar and make it lock up or down in tune with itself so you could play in different keys. All right? So that was his invention. But before we go any further, let's just check this out. Everybody, guitar collector, what's going on? Must be anchored in the guitar. You talking about the bar heft? It must be anchored in the guitar. Well, shocking, it doesn't pull out to pull. Okay, so what Hef is saying, what Jeremy's saying, okay, so say you lock it up or down, right? You can't bump that bar because it'll snap it right out. It's just sitting on a little notch. And sometimes if you listen back to the 5150 tour or OU812 tour, if you have any of the bootlegs, like I got hundreds and hundreds of them from the years, you can actually hear Eddie knock it out of tune sometimes, and he's got to stop and or just readjust real quick and lock it back up or lock it down. So that's the thing. When you have it locked up or down, you can't use the bar. Okay, because it's locked. So, I mean, you can use the bar, but it's going to go right back into standard again. You'd have to lock it back up in there. Okay? So that's why in Summer Nights you don't hear Eddie using the bar when it's locked up 2 full steps. Okay? Thanks, F. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, Blackie, does sound cool. Let's see, I was going to ask how slack the strings feel. So, yeah, they're basically light gauge. I think they're like a 9. These strings are essentially 9s. Okay, they're double ball system. I use we'll get into that after, but just in case I forget to mention it. When you tune a Steinberger TransTrem and you set it up, you kind of have to use the same type of strings. Specific strings are made for TransTrem guitars. You can't just go buy a Steinberger set. You have to make sure they're geared for a TransTrem because they're more stretchy. All right. So when you set it up, they're a little bit different. Labella used to make them. I think they still do, and Diodario makes them. And I've been using the Diodario because that's how this thing's set up. I could throw a set of Labellas on it, and it would probably work, but it would sound a little bit off because there's a little bit difference in the tolerances of the strings, and a lot of that has to do with manufacturers. So I try to stick with the same kind of strings. Yeah, this guitar right now probably goes for about $6,000 because it's an original 1985 GL2T TransTrem. It's a Newberg guitar, and this TransTrem is a brand. Well, it's 10 years old, but it was rebuilt. It was a brand new TransTrem when I put it in because the one that was in here when I got it off eBay was shot to hell. So I had to put a brand new TransTrem in it, and I had a company called Pika Moose in New York do that, and they gave me a good deal. So back on track here. Hey, Johnny Bean, what's going on, buddy? How you doing? So essentially what happens is Ned Steinberger makes this guitar, right? And he does it so people can play in different keys. Now along comes Eddie Van Halen with his intuitive type, you know, what else can it do type, you know, mindset. And because Eddie's always tweaking stuff, you guys know that he's always trying to make things work. He's always trying to, like, you know, whatever. What else, like I said, what else can it do? And it's all the weird sounds. Nobody had ever heard anybody like Eddie Van Halen. So now somebody puts one of these guitars in Eddie's hand, and it's like, oh, cool. So he doesn't just lock it up and down in different keys. He's using the bar, and he's doing all this, you know, he's doing all this crazy stuff, you know, like in Summer Nights, you know, he's just doing all this insane stuff, you know, because he loves hitting harmonics, so he's... All right, so he's doing all this crazy stuff. And it's hard to say if Ned Steinberger really, he probably didn't intend people to be abusing the bar that way. He probably just thought people were going to use the bar to lock it up and play in different keys. I don't know, maybe he didn't. But Eddie basically just takes it to the, you know, just literally takes the thing to the, you know, 6 levels above what anybody else could. So essentially what happens is, the story goes, Eddie was given 2 of these guitars, 2 GL2T guitars, okay? GL2T, GL basically stands for this body shape, GL. 2 stands for 2 humbuckers, and T stands for TransTrem, okay? So you'll see GL4T, you'll see, you know, different names, and a lot of that means is basically they're referring to how many pickups it has, and they're referring to, you know, if it doesn't have a T on the end, that means it's not a TransTrem. Now, the other kind of trems that are on Steinbergers are called S-trems. Those are standard trems, okay? Now, they're floating, and you can do all kinds of crazy, wacky stuff with them, but they cost significantly less, and you can't lock it up and down in other notches because it's not cammed in such a way where when you pull up on down on it, you know, the strings go up and down with each other in a chord fashion. That's why the Steinberger is so unique, okay? So Eddie gets 2 of these guitars delivered at some point in 83 or 84, we're not sure, okay? And essentially this was one of Eddie's guitars, okay? There it is. And here's Eddie with it back in 1985, okay? That's one of the 2 GL2Ts he got, okay? But he got 2 of them, and I'm going to tell you why I know he got 2 of them in a minute. He got 2 of them. He might even have 10 of them. Who the heck knows, you know? I think I seen one in Ed's collection with a humbucker, 2 single coils, and same paint, but this one had OU. Yeah, I'm going to show you that picture in a minute, Nick, because that was the OU812 12-string Steinberger guitar. That didn't have a TransTrem on it, though. Apparently, Eddie used it for Cabo Wabo, because that was recorded with a 12-string. We're going to get to that. I got a picture. I'm going to show you that. Okay? Good catch on that, though. So Eddie gets 2 of these. When I say 2 of these guitars, as far as I know, 2 of these guitars, GL2Ts. He also had Steinberger basses. He was really into the Steinberger thing. Okay, obviously Eddie had the Kramers. He was, you know, his 5150 was, you know, I mean, this was his main guitar. You know, the 5150, and I mean, basically these 2 guitars were Eddie's life. Going into the 5150 tour. These were his babies, essentially, okay? So, he gets 2 of the guitars, all right? And he starts recording with it. So Dave leaves the band, and Eddie starts recording Summer Nights, okay? Comes up with a riff, and you guys all know the deal. Basically, who knows how much of the song he had, but Sandy comes along, they, you know, call him up from Claudio's, hey, come on up, join the band, you know the deal. Sandy's like, oh, no, man, I'll see you on Monday, whatever, maybe. Comes up, Eddie plays, you know, the first couple of chords of Summer Nights, Sammy falls in love, gets the lyrics like that, the rest is history, okay? So, basically, Van Halen records 5150, Sammy's in the band, now Eddie's playing more melodically, he's writing songs like 5150 and Good Enough, and Summer Nights. They're just happy guys, you know. They're having a great time because they got this singer. I'm not slamming Roth, but I got this singer now that can just go, you know, major notches above what Roth could. So Eddie's allowed to play more melodic now and just branches off, whatever. They're starting to do keyboard stuff, like which they were doing with Roth too. But they're just more melodic. Now they also started playing in standard tuning, and a lot of the stuff they played with Roth back in the early days was all down a half step. It's probably because of Roth's vocal range. Okay, I'm not talking about him as a lead singer. I'm talking about his vocal range. Two totally different things. Okay, so they record the album and they go out on tour. Okay, now Eddie's playing Summer Nights. He's playing Get Up, but the guitar that he took on tour. Okay, he might have taken them both. We don't know. There's actually another one. They actually had a Kramer guitar that had a TransTrem, and there's a picture of Valerie with it. I'll show you guys that guitar also in a few minutes. Takes the guitar on tour. It's not striped yet. Does not have a striped faceplate. Okay, so Eddie goes on tour with the Steinberger, and here's a picture of Eddie and the 5150 tour playing it. Why is it so damn bright? Okay, I don't know if you guys can tell. I'll turn it this way a little bit. Okay, this is live towards the beginning. Now you'll notice he's playing Summer Nights or Get Up, but the faceplate's not striped because he hadn't had it striped yet. Okay, so he's playing the guitar. It's not striped. It looks something like this. Okay, which is exactly what mine looked like before I striped my faceplate. That's a GL2T. All right. So he's playing the guitar. It's not striped, and make sure we didn't miss anything. And hard to say. I would think sometime towards the beginning or the middle of the tour, the guitar was delivered, or one of the two was delivered to Jeff Babbitt's. All right, now Jeff Babbitt's is at the time I think he worked for Steinberger, he worked for Ned Steinberger. And the guitar was delivered to Jeff, and a gentleman by the name of Jim O'Connor painted the faceplate. Okay, I don't know who Jim O'Connor is. I would assume he worked for Steinberger or with Steinberger, or he was something that worked with Eddie. But this gentleman named Jim O'Connor is the one that painted the famous 5150 striped faceplate. Okay, now the faceplates on these, they come off. You have 6 screws on the back of this guitar, and they're long like hex screws. Okay, and when you take those screws out, essentially what happens is the whole faceplate comes off. The bridge stays, but the whole faceplate comes off, all attached to the pickups. Oh, you talked to Jim? Super cool dude. Oh, that's awesome, Hef. I'd love to catch up with him sometime. The whole faceplate comes off with all of the electronics. The pickups are attached because they're spring-loaded, and Eddie's were too. The knobs, everything comes off. And they're all wired kind of together. So everything's basically wired to the faceplate. So essentially what had to happen when Jim O'Connor painted it, had to take all the electronics out, stripe the faceplate. The 5150 is painted. They're not decals as far as we know. It's painted. Okay. So Jim O'Connor paints the faceplate, gives it back to Jeff Babbitt's, and Jeff Babbitt's puts it together. Okay. Now, where's that famous picture? Oh, okay, here it is. So this is probably 1986, and that's Jeff back then with Eddie's guitar. Okay, that's Eddie's GL2T guitar. Okay. Now just a little bit of, well, we'll get into that after where the guitar, we'll go, we'll go historically. So the guitar's striped, and then the remaining of the 5150 tour, Eddie's playing it, and it looks just like this one, okay? Now, Eddie's guitar was we think both of them was a 1985 Newberg guitar. Now, Newberg stands for the place that it was made in, okay? Newberg. What do you want? So, Brian, come here. You want to say hi? Break up the monotony for a second. Come here. Get over here. Oh, gosh. Don't be a pain in the ass. All right. Brian wants to say hi. Yeah, I know. I don't need kisses. You say hi? Okay. Want your toy? Here. All right. So that's pretty much what happened. So they finish off the 5150 tour. Eddie records OU812, and he plays it again. And the OU812 tour plays Summer Nights. And, we'll get into what happened after that. Now, somebody asked a question a few minutes ago about other Steinbergers that Eddie had during this period, okay? Now, this is a guitar that Eddie also had. However, it might have been played live. However, I've never seen it. But this is a 12-string Steinberger guitar. And you'll notice it says OU812 on the side. And you'll notice the bridge, it's like an S, it's a 12-string type S-trem. It's kind of blurry, I know. All right. But it says OU812 on the side, and this has 2 single coils and a humbucker. All right. And no whammy bar. Because, quite frankly, it's kind of hard to play 12-string with whammy bar. I mean, I have 12-string. It's hard enough to play a 12-string anyways. It's more just chording things. It's kind of hard to you can't, well, I'm sure some people can. I can't shred on a 12-string because it's just too hard. You know, there's too many strings. I've never seen him play that guitar, okay, but he did have it. And apparently, from what I've heard, that's what Cabo Wabo was recorded on, okay? That's why it has that, if you really listen to it, that's why it has that, you know, that huge kind of sound, because it's 12 strings. Just like Secrets, okay? So, who knows if that guitar was ever used live, but, you know, because I think Eddie used his 5150 when he was, you know, played Cabo Wabo live in OU812. So those were the guitars that Eddie was using in the 86 and the 88 tours, okay? And pretty much that's, you know, that's the deal for that guitar. So, just real quick, let's take a little break, do a little demo for you guys on this, so I'll just turn this down just a little bit so you guys can see it. Okay. Okay, so Summer Nights, okay? Move it this way just a little bit. All right, so Summer Nights. Yeah, I love playing the 12 strings too. They're a lot of fun. They just sound so amazing. Vinny, what's going on? R2, R3, what's going on? Just make sure you're okay. Nobody jumped in. So, all right, so on this guitar, what you have is you have a volume knob here, okay? And you have a tone knob, which I keep all the way up, obviously. And then you have your selector switch, so all the way down is your bridge, middle is both, all the way up is your neck. So it's pretty much set up just like a Music Man, okay? So basically, Summer Nights plays in 3 different positions. It plays locked up 2 full steps, which is the intro, okay? And then he comes back down into the neutral position, okay? Right here, okay? Playing in standard. And then, I don't remember how to play this part, but he locks it down a half a step, and this is the part where it's something like that. I can't remember how he plays it. I have to look at it again, but that's essentially what it is. So there's basically 3 different positions Eddie plays for Summer Nights, okay? So he starts the song up, locked all the way up in, I forget what key it is, but it's locked up 2 steps, okay? And that's where he does the intro, okay? Now, for those of you guys that don't have one of these guitars, you can use a capo, or you can play it standard, but you know it sounds cooler when you're locked up. Or some guys even know how to play it in standard tuning, but just you can fret a different way and make it sound that way. Bill Kelly from Van Hagar does that. He's amazing. But so, hey, Nocturnal Butterfly, how you doing? Good to see you. All right, so he's locked up 2 steps, okay, and then he finger picks the beginning. Okay, that's basically all he does, okay? All right, playing that like crap, sorry. And then basically... That's all it is. That's all it is. So all he's doing when he drops that, he's locked up 2 steps, okay? And he's doing that killer pick slide, you know? Okay. Okay, and all he's doing is he's just taking the bar, unlocking it, and bringing it back down into standard, and then just hitting what's that, a G chord, I think it is, because he's doing A chord. What is that? F? I'm not sure. So he's. And he's just hitting harmonics. And then he's just basically in standard for most of the song. That's all it is. It's a pretty simple song to play, actually, but it's a lot of fun when you're playing it on a guitar like that. So for those of you guys that have one of these, that's pretty much how Summer Nights works. And for those of you that don't have it, that's kind of how he's doing it. And he might be doing things a little bit differently. You know, it's Eddie's different, but you know, for everything that I've watched in videos, that's all he's doing. It's a very, very simple song to play. So we get through the 5150 tour, the OU812 tour, and that's kind of the last time we've seen that guitar, okay? Now, we've heard a lot of TransTrem stuff since then, okay? We've heard, actually, hold on, before we get to that, there is one thing, that's not the last time we heard it. So, grand opening of Cabo Wabo in 1990. That's the last time that we've seen Eddie play that guitar, all right? And they play Summer Nights. So, here's a little video for you guys. This is only a little piece of it. Now here's a picture. It's bad, I know, because of quality, but here's a picture of Ed playing Summer Nights. Now, what do you guys notice differently about this one? Okay, watch the video. It's a short video. What do you guys notice different? Okay, watch one more time. So, I think it's pretty obvious, right? There's no striped faceplate, all right? So Eddie was using the other Steinberger GL2T that he had. Remember we said earlier he had two of them? As far as we know, he could have had more than that, I don't know. But he had at least two of them, okay? Had a black faceplate, and you guys have seen that. Yeah, I mean, it's killer. He's using his backup. He's using his backup GL. He had two of them, okay? He had two of them. Now, I've seen pictures of those guitars backstage in the 5150 tour. I never saw the black one. I only saw this one, okay? But he did have a Kramer guitar with a Steinberger on it. I don't know if he ever used it live. Like I said, he was only using it for one or two songs. But yeah, he did. He had two of them. So for Cabo Wabo, he brought the backup one, and he played the backup one. So only one of those faceplates was striped, and that's the famous 5150 striped faceplate. Now those faceplates these days, oh man, they go for big dollars. Like, geez, I don't even know. They're probably, the faceplate probably goes for like maybe $800. I mean, I've seen them for anywhere from like 400 to almost 1,000. You know. Now these guitars, if you get on eBay, the Steinbergers go for, like I said, anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000. The bridge itself, just the TransTrems are going for a couple grand now. The necks are graphite. Okay, they're made out of graphite. They're not rosewood. They're graphite, which really feels pretty good. I mean, it really feels smooth. It's got nice low action, and the rest of the guitar, it's almost like it almost feels like kind of like a polymer type texture to it. It's not a cheap plastic, and it's a heavy little guitar. It's heavy. Now it's got a little, you know, it's got a little plate on it here. Okay. So you can put it on your leg, you know, and so it makes it easy to, you know, to play it from sitting down. What I don't like about it, the only thing I don't like about it, for me, this is just me, it's hard for me to play this guitar because I like a guitar with a little more weight on the headstock. So I'm always kind of like trying to find the neck because I have a very light touch. So I mean, even something as simple as, you know, Summer Nights. You know, and then you get it. I'm always looking for I'm always trying to get control of the neck because it's so light. It almost feels like it's always doing that to me. Now, it might be a little different when you stand up. Some people love playing these guitars, but you know. It's not hard to play, it's just a little bit different. You got to get used to it, okay? You definitely got to get used to it. And I remember there's an article out there where Eddie said that that's a hard guitar to play. He actually said that because it's a weird little guitar to play. It's difficult. So I never noticed the guy having a hard time playing it. He always looked like he was smoking the thing to me, but you know, or smoking on the thing. But it is a difficult guitar to play if you're not used to it, especially if you're used to, like, you know, Strat style or Wolfgang or Music Man, whatever. But we'll keep going. Let's look at some questions here. Yeah, Hef, you never seen that video? Just get on YouTube and type in Cabo Wabo grand opening. The whole show. It's an awesome video. They play 5150, Summer Nights, AFU, Best of Both Worlds. They don't play anything off of Firm Lawful, but they'd already had the album done. As far as we know, it was right before Eddie switched to Music Man. He was using the Soldano amps. PV was making the 5150s and all. We're going to get into that because we'll do a special show on that tour because that's the first time we saw this guitar with a 7 tuning peg on it. You know, with it, it's got a. He basically took, when the headstock smashed, he moved this peg, which is a Godo, down here, and then he just threw whatever he had laying around, which happened to be typical Ed, a Shaler double tab tuner. You know, it's almost impossible to find those kind of things. Typical Ed, you know, always throwing something on a guitar that nobody else can find. But isn't that Kramer the one with Valerie with a guitar between her legs? Yeah, it is. And I'll show you a picture of that guitar. And Ed brought this on tour with him. And here it is. That's it right there. That is a Kramer guitar with a Steinberger TransTrem on it. All right, and you'll see the bottom is notched out, and then it's got a little hole in it here because that's where your tension wheel is, your tension adjuster. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes when we go over mine. So that was a specially made TransTrem guitar by Kramer, which obviously you can't get, but he had that on tour with him. Though again, I don't know if he ever played it, but there's a picture of Valerie holding that guitar, you know, sitting down from a photo shoot. It's pretty cool. EVH Gear TV, what's going on? How you doing? All right, what else we got? Wasn't Eddie restoring his Steinberger last year? To me, I saw some photos. No, it was actually 2015 he was restoring the guitar. And a couple of photos of that restoration is right here. So Jeff Babbitts approached Eddie, or Eddie approached Jeff Babbitts. It's actually on the news desk. And what happened was, you know, Eddie's probably picked up the guitar and he's just like, oh, you know, messing around with it. Great, you know, whatever. Hey, Craig, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you, my man. Picks up the guitar and he's like, oh, I want to get this thing restored. And I have no idea why it was like this, but this is the condition that Jeff got the guitar in. Look at that. It's got tape all over it. It's got 2 different pickups in it. The one on the bridge is probably a PV Wolfgang pickup, or maybe an EVH, I don't know. Okay. It's got 2 different pickups in it, and obviously the guitar had been out of commission for a while. Now Eddie, we'll talk about TransTrems in a few minutes. There's, as far as I know, well, as far as traditional TransTrem, there's 2 versions. There's the old school one, the original I should say, and then the newer version. Mine has a newer version on. We'll talk about what's different towards the end of the video here when we get ready to wrap up. Eddie always had the original TransTrem. He never had it updated because it always worked for Let me see. So Jeff Babbitt's got this guitar and restored it per Eddie. And here's a picture of it after it's been restored. It's sitting on the table. It's got EMGs. Gosh, this thing's so blurry. It's got EMGs in it, and it's all back to normal. You can't see, but the pictures show the faceplate's kind of scuffed up a little bit. Okay. So Eddie decided that he wanted to get that guitar back out, and on the Van Halen news desk, Eddie made the comment, it says it right there, that a lot of people want to see this guitar played again. Yup, I'm one of them. I want to see Eddie ripping in the summer nights. I want to see him, I'd love to see him play Fire in the Hole on that guitar. I'd love to see him play Me Wise Magic, Pleasure Dope, Get Up, all those songs, because there's a whole bunch of songs that had some TransTrem stuff in it. We'll talk about in just a couple minutes. But yes, the guitar was restored, and who knows why? I got my hopes, but maybe one day we'll get lucky. It'll make a reappearance. But it just shows that Eddie is, still has it handy, So yeah, the tape was actually holding the cavity together. That's right, Eric. Yeah, it was actually holding everything in place. And no. Not quite sure how long it had been that way. Like I said, obviously somebody switched the pickups out, probably to some Wolfgang pups. So obviously the guitar had been tinkered with over the years, But it's back in original order as it is. Now, Jeff Babbitt's, I showed you a picture of him. If you get online, Jeff Babbitt's is he's a famous former Steinberger technician, guitar luthier. I actually talked to Jeff maybe a year or so ago about restoring this guitar. This guitar plays great, it's fine. But one of these days I'm actually going to send it to Jeff and just have him go through the whole thing and redo everything. And not redo everything, but just check it out and fine tune whatever. And I mean, he can do wonders. Maybe check the frets or whatever. Just tune it up basically. But the guy basically rebuilt Steinbergers, and he's probably one of the most knowledgeable people there is out there on the TransTrem system, along with Ned Steinberger himself. So real quick, let's just go through what happened after the Cabo Wabo show, 1990. The GL2Ts kind of get put away. We don't see them anymore. Okay, up until 2015 when Jeff's rebuilding Eddie's. As far as we know. That doesn't mean Eddie hasn't been using the TransTrems. So Eddie's looking for a new guitar company. And the only reason I'm bringing this up, because this is the Steinberger show, I'm bringing this up so you guys understand Steinberger was in the mix. And Eddie was considering an endorsement deal with Steinberger pre-Music Man. I mean, you guys have all heard PRS was trying to get him. They made an Eddie Van Halen guitar. It's on YouTube. He had Fender, he had Gibson, he had everybody because Kramer was going under. There was a bunch of stuff that was happening, and Eddie was looking at coming out with his own signature guitar. And from what I understand, he was this close to going with Steinberger. But ultimately, he just decided that wasn't the guitar for him for his normal playing, because he always preferred a regular Floyd Rose, and he only wanted to use the Steinberger TransTrem on certain tunes. Because even Eddie wasn't going as wacky with the bar on all of his songs. So essentially, he was very close to getting an endorsement deal with Ned Steinberger, and it didn't happen. Ultimately, he goes to Music Man. So he still maintains a very good working relationship with Ned Steinberger, even to this day. And from what I understand, he did right up through the 90s up until today. Because one of the guitars, I'm not sure if even Ed remembers what he played on the songs because it changes. And Ed said, originally in 1997, because I got magazines, the Fire in the Hole, P.V. Wolfgang, the special, has a TransTrem on it, which I'll show you in a minute. And Ed says in a Guitar One magazine, because I have it, he says, this is what I used to record Me Wise Magic. But then in the Guitar Aficionado magazine, Ed says, well, I used the Les Paul, a striped 5150 Les Paul with a TransTrem to record. So who knows? Who cares? Doesn't matter. The fact is, Ed was still tied to Ned Steinberger, and they were still using the TransTrem. So for the song Pleasure Dome, okay, Ed used, on the album, okay, not live. On live he used his regular music man. But for the song Pleasure Dome, as far as we know, this is the guitar that he used. Not the 12-string Steinberger. It was this one. Okay? It was a Steinberger GMS series. Okay? Pretty cool. So he was still working with them. Now, as far as we know, that's the guitar that he used for Pleasure Dome. That's what I read years ago. Because I don't believe Music Man made any Steinberger TransTrem guitars like Peavey did. Okay? Yeah, you're right, Eric. Yeah, I mean, Jeff makes awesome new bridges. Yeah, he's a great guy. And like I said, that's why I want to send mine to him one of these days, because I mean, the guy's just a wizard. You know, there's nobody better out there than him. He's the man when it comes to the TransTrems. And he understands the TransTrem system. It's one thing to play these bridges and be able to utilize it, but it's another thing to really understand how it works. I mean, a regular bridge like a Floyd Rose is pretty simple to set up, and it's pretty simple to understand how it works. But the TransTrem, I'll tell you, like I said, every time I have to go through and do, you know, major adjustments to that, which is not a lot, I got to go through this whole Steinberger tips and info flyer that I've had all these years, and then this one, like I said, that shows the transposing chart, you know, and it shows all the system, that how the TransTrem works and all the parts. It's really in depth, and I have to really sit there and break it down and really just, you know, not necessarily trial by error, but it's such an in-depth system. I mean, it's just, you have to be a freaking genius to be able to build something like that. It's amazing to me, you know, and that's why when Ed said Ned Steinberger almost over-engineers things, because the guy is such a magician when it comes to that kind of stuff. So now we get into the Peavey Wolfgang phase, okay? And now, as we know, Ed's recording songs like you know, Fire in the Hole and things like that, right? So Peavey makes two, as far as we know, makes two TransTrem guitars for Ed, and here's the Fire in the Hole TransTrem. Okay, Chris Hubbard's actually rebuilding one of his right now, which you guys will be checking out. Some of you guys saw Chris Locks making the bodies. Okay, so that's the Fire in the Hole guitar, Peavey Wolfgang with a TransTrem, and the body is routed out on the bottom. So the bridge, it's being a TransTrem, it's floating, so the bridge can rotate more. And it really has a huge range of rotating, because like I said, you're going up and down through keys. Okay, so it's not just like a Floyd floating bridge where you can go up a little bit. You can really aggressively go up and down with these things. They're pretty cool. So they did that one for him, and here's another one. They did a black one for him too. Okay. I think that might be the one that he used in the video, the Fire in the Hole video they did for the Lethal Weapon movie. Okay. So they did that one. Now, the TransTrem itself is a bridge that you can certainly get and purchase. They're very, very expensive. There's not a lot of places that sell them. Like I said, Jeff Babbitt's will put them in, but you're definitely in the thousands, you know, to get just the bridge. And you can maybe get it for under $1,000 depending. But there's two versions of the bridge. Okay, now there's the old version, which is what Ed used, the original version, because it just worked for him. Okay, and here's a picture of Ed with his, you know, OU Whaling 2 tour, and you really can't get in. You really can't get in close to see what the differences is between the two bridges. I'll show you what the differences are. So when I got this guitar back in 99, maybe it was, I think it was 99 or 2000, I got it off of eBay for $500. Okay, faceplate wasn't striped, it had TransTrem on it, but it was an original TransTrem, but it was shot. Parts were broken and everything. It didn't work. So I sent it to a company called Pikamoose, and they put a brand new TransTrem in it. And at the time, the TransTrem cost me, I think, a couple $100. Okay. And to have them put it in and do everything to it cost me about $1,500 at the time. This was back in the year 2000. To have that done to this guitar now would probably be $2-3 grand maybe. Okay, so this is one of the new TransTrems, or this version 2. Okay, Now they have these little set screws here on the newer ones, okay? Steinberger system. See those little flathead set screws? The original bridge did not have those set screws, okay? You had to do, I can't tell you how you made fine-tuning adjustments because I don't know. But it did not have these set screws here. So those are fine-tuning intonation screws, okay? And as we said, here's your regular tuners right here, all right? So the original didn't have those screws. It just had your fine tuner. So you put your strings in, and then you'd have to do different types of modifications to set it. The other difference is like we said here, here's the bar, here's the little lever with 6 notches in it, right? 1 in the middle, which is standard, and then 2 you can lock it up with 2 full steps, and then you can lock it down 3 full steps, okay? And then they've got this little piece right here, which is what locks it in. Okay, that's what locks it in the little thing. So like I said, if you're playing the guitar and you knock it, it's going to come out. It's going to get knocked out of whack. And I've seen Ed on videos do that. You can hear it. He'll be playing, you know, because he just knocks it out. And he's got to, you know, reset. It's kind of cool. So you can't jump around too much with the thing and go too crazy when it's locked up or down, because you'll knock the bar out of whack and it'll just go back into standard. And like we said, you can't use the bar to do dives when it's locked. You have to unlock it and then you can do it, and then but you have to go back. Okay, so that's kind of how it worked. So those are pretty much the differences between the two. The newer one just has those screws, so for intonation and different adjustments. Okay, and then there's a couple. The lever on the original one where you lock it in is just shaped a little bit differently. I think they did some reinforcements to some of the metal. It's a little girthier, it's a little bigger. Because, you know, if that little lever breaks, your TransTrem is shot. Because that's how you lock it up and down. So you got to be, you know, I even go really easy with that lever. I don't bang it around because I don't want those little teeth on the, you know, for the notches to get, you know, to get chipped or charred, because then it just messes it up. And, you know, finding the parts for that bridge, you can do it, but it's kind of pricey. And, you know, if you just take care of the guitar, you don't have to worry about it. All right, so let's see what we got for questions here. Yep, we talked about fire in the whole video. How does Eddie get the cigarette to stay in the end of the guitar? Well, I wondered that for a long time, because there's really not much you can do there. My guess is he just had a little rubber band around it. I think he just used a little band or a little piece of plastic. Because this is your nut. You don't fret here. Here's your first fret, okay, and there's where your strings lock in. And there's really nothing on the back or anything. So, but if you just put a little band around there, you can get your cigarette to go in there, or just stick something. You know, you could stick something in the end, like a little piece of wire in the end where the strings go in. You can stick it in, and you can just stick the butt end of the cigarette in there. But I wondered that for years. I'm like, how did he do that? But yeah, that's how he's doing it. He's just sticking it in a rubber band, or just a little piece of wire sticking out of the end. Just going through the questions here. Thank you, Nocturnal Butterfly. Thanks, Sandra. Yeah, thanks for yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, Eddie forgets and sometimes does throw us a curve, but I feel more that he honestly just forgets. You know, I think this is just my opinion, and I agree with Eric. I think years ago he just would try to throw curves because he got so sick of people, you know, copying his stuff. But I mean, obviously he doesn't care anymore because everybody's making these guitars. He knows that. He can't control them. I mean, maybe, obviously he shouldn't be selling them because it's a copyright infringement. We know that. But he's releasing all this stuff, so he doesn't care anymore. I mean, in my opinion. Back then he would throw us curves, but I think right now he just forgets. I really do. He doesn't remember what Kramers he played back in, you know, 82. We did. I mean, if you should, like I said, this guitar right here, you know, the Neptune guitar, one of my favorite Kramers, the Neptune, it's literally just down the street from Eddie's house. Eddie lives up on top of the mountain, and then the Hard Rock Cafe is at the bottom of the hill. And he probably would, if he ever went in there, he'd probably be like, oh, that's a fake, that's not one of mine. But there's pictures of him, you know, helping make the guitar. So, you know, it's kind of funny. And I did a video on that guitar a few weeks ago when he sprayed the black paint out. So I agree. I think he forgets. Like in the Guitar Aficionado magazine, he said, you know, they made the double neck, and he said all the other Kramers out there are all fakes. Well, I mean, what about the Vetus guitar? What about the Hot for Teacher? What about the you know, what about the hard rock guitar that had the original '84 neck on it? You know, the giveaway guitar that him and Val donated. What about the Neptune? What about the Kramerad guitar? You can go on and on. The 918V, just a million of them. So, you know, it's hard to say. I mean, because Kramer just made tons of these guitars, and so many of them were given away. So many of them were stolen. You know, and people were trying to sell them, and you know, it's just it's a big mess, and I don't blame Ed for being mad about that. But you know, a lot of these guitars were, you know, a lot of them were fakes. There was people out there, some people really close to Ed, making these guitars and trying to pawn them off as Eddie's real guitars, and that's not right. So I think what Ed was basically saying is, you know, a lot of them are fakes out there, but there is a pretty good handful of ones that were made for Ed. He may not have played them on stage, but they were made for Ed, and they probably spent some time in the studio and in his hands. So, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, Vito did play that one. Thank you very much, R2R3. Appreciate it. My buddy that played in the Canadian 5150 tribute band before me had this model, but a vinyl stripe overlay on it. He did not want to paint it. Oh, interesting. That's cool. Oh, that's right, because you weren't the original guitarist. You came in second. Yep, I remember that. Yep, I remember you actually told me that. Clip-on tuners on these and other headless guitars. Yeah, yep, you can do that. There's a lot of stuff changing with these guitars. I forget what I have for supper. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm going to have for supper tonight. Donald Davenport. Hey Rob, does the AVH 5150 MIM have a spliced in headstock? I'm not quite sure what you're asking on that, Don. Oh yeah, I bet it was fun to talk to Dennis Berardi about all the EVH folklore. Oh man, yeah, that was awesome. I kind of wished he got more into the Kramer stuff too. You know, there was so many questions. I was like, oh man, I wished he would have touched on that. But I mean, you only got a certain amount of time. You can only ask certain things. You know, so and again, you know, I mean, like we were talking, he probably wouldn't remember if you said, hey, remember that? Remember the Kramer Neptune? He'd be like, huh? He probably didn't remember. They did so many of them so many years ago. Only, you know, idiots like us, nerds, would know this stuff. The people that made them didn't even. When at the NAMM, okay, here's one for you. At the NAMM show, I'm talking to Floyd Rose, right? This last few months ago, and he's showing me his Floyd Rose, you know, on one of his guitars, and I'm like, hey, yeah, on my 5150 guitar, I got a whale tail on it, you know, and I'm showing him, I'm talking to him about my whale tail and everything. He goes, oh, that's what this is. He goes, this is a whale tail. What am I going to do? Am I going to argue with Floyd Rose? Nope. So I tried to be very tactful how I said it. He's like, this is a whale tail, and it was just one of the basic, you know, Floyds. And I'm like, well, I mean the first one that you made, like the first one, and it didn't have, you know, the springs underneath the screws, and the base was shaped like a whale, and the tuners were brass, and the collar was different. So I said, check this out. And I showed him a picture of mine, okay? And he looked at it, and Floyd Rose. They got Floyd Rose, and he goes, oh yeah, I remember that. He goes, Fernandez used to help us make those. So it's cool, you know, here I am talking to Floyd Rose, telling him about his whale tail bridges, you know, the first run that they did on Eddie's guitars. It was just surreal. I'm sitting here telling Floyd Rose, you know, I don't want to be like, no, you're wrong. So I was like, you know, it's just cool. So it's just really neat talking to these people. But yeah, so many years have gone by. These guys don't remember all that stuff, like us geeks. All right, let's just see. We're going to continue on. Cooking breakfast tonight. Nice. Breakfast is always good. I'll have him back. Maybe you can call in and ask. Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that. I'm actually trying to get George Felice to come on my show. I really would like to talk to George about some of the Kramers that he painted. I've been trying to get in touch with him, so I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to continue on with that because I'm a huge Kramer fan. Eddie's Kramers are my favorite guitars. Yeah. So, okay, let's continue on real quick here, and then we'll go through a couple of things, and then we'll wrap everything up. Like I said, so you guys can have your dinner, and I don't want to infringe on Johnny and Dave and Jay's show later. But so basically, what happened was the PVs were the last guitars that we know of that Ed had the TransTrems put on. Different kind of truth, you know, that had a lot of sustainer stuff on it. MIUI's Magic, you know, other songs had a lot of sustainer stuff. Ed started getting into, you know, we talked about this guitar too. Ed started getting into the Fernandez sustainer stuff, and I did a video on this last week. So the sustainer kind of became one of his new babies. You know, he was abusing the sustainers and stuff. And then the kill switch. So Ed, you know, Ed has toys that he uses that he goes back and forth with, you know. And, you know, he uses them for years, then sometimes he comes back to them. So, you know, just one of those things. So, where does the TransTrem stand now? I don't know. Like I said, the last time we saw it was when Eddie, you know, had Jeff Babbitt's come back in 2015 and restore his original GL2T. So, like I said, we can all hope that maybe that makes an appearance again. But Eddie was using them right up until, like I said, right after the 3 tour. You know, there was a lot of TransTrem stuff still happening. So we'll see what you know, what comes next after that. So on my guitar, let's just talk about the parts for a second. I'll tell you how they work, because this is basically the same as Eddie's. Like I said, we already kind of went over the TransTrem. The pickups are EMGs, okay. And they're active, okay, which means in the back there's a little battery compartment, okay, and it's a 9-volt battery, and they're active pickups, which means they're, you know, they're kind of powered by that battery. Now, some people don't like active pickups. I'm not a huge fan of them, and some people just don't like EMGs in particular. And I mean, honestly, this guitar sounds great. I mean, you guys heard, you know, what it sounded like. I got this new microphone, so hopefully it sounds pretty good. It's actually a really, they sound pretty hot. They really do. You can kind of tell when the pickups, when the battery's starting to go, because you'll kind of start hearing like, you know, it'll kind of start to sound a little weaker. Most of these Steinbergers have this little plate here. We showed you that, and that just folds out so it can sit on your leg if you want to play standing down. There's some pictures of Eddie out there in the 5150 Ole and 2 tour where the leg was flopped down like that. You know, he's playing. It's kind of funny. It's got a big ass bar on it, big long bendy bar, so you can really do some crazy stuff with it. 24 frets, okay, 24 fret neck. It is a graphite neck like we talked about, and we talked about it earlier. They're double ball strings, okay, and essentially, like I said, when you replace a string or you replace the strings, what you basically do is you just back the tuners all the way off. Or all the way back, I should say, and then this slackens the string, and then you can just pull it out, and then it just pulls out this way. So the way you string it is you put the string in, pull it down, and then you flip it in the little spot here. Okay, it fits in the little groove, and then you simply tighten your tuner, and then it brings it up to pitch. And that's how you tune these things. They're so simple. Now again, the strings on a TransTrem are not just normal double ball. They have to be, excuse me, like I said earlier, TransTrem springs. They have to be, like I said, Labella makes them, Diodario makes them, but they have to say for the Steinberger TransTrem system. I mean, you can put regular double balls, but they won't. It won't go in tune with it. They have the strings are manufactured to certain tolerances to be able to do what the TransTrem is capable of doing. Okay. Now the bridge itself, like I said, basically just kind of screws in with 4 screws. You know, that go into the base plate, and then the back of it, you have this little adjustment wheel here, which adjusts your tension. It's kind of like a same idea as like a trem claw, basically. But being that this bridge is floating, like you guys can see, it's floating. Okay, it's not like you would adjust it like a Floyd, like if you want your guitars like Eddie, where the bridge sits flush. So you have to adjust it based off of the tension that you need, and how this bar, like I said, fits in that notch. Like right now, it's up okay, it's not locked in, and it's in standard, okay? If I lock it down, I don't even have to do anything. It just falls right into place, and it's the same. So when you tune this guitar, they recommend tuning it with it locked in, okay? And then you tune it, like when I retune it. But when you move the bar up, it doesn't pull it out of whack. It only pulls it out of whack when you move it up and lock it, or down and lock it, okay? So it's really an ingenious system. Now, I painted this faceplate myself, okay, years and years ago, and it came out pretty cool. Again, the numbers are, they're paint, like Ed's, they're not stickers. And I put a couple 5150 stickers on it. So this guitar is probably my second favorite guitar, my 5150 being the most favorite. The story goes, as you guys heard it, I actually sold this guitar. About 3 years after I bought it, I sold it. I needed the money. I was married at the time. And I remember, oh man, I forget what I sold it for. It wasn't a lot of money. It was only like maybe a couple, well, maybe it was like a couple grand, I think. Well, it was a lot of money, but back then it wasn't $6 grand like it would be today. And I sold it because I needed the cash. The day that I shipped it out, I regretted it. I'm like, I'm going to regret that. So 2 years go by, maybe, yeah, about 2 years. And I'm like, oh man, you know, I wished I had this thing. I bought a Hohner guitar, which are great guitars, striped up the top. They didn't have faceplates, but you know, I just did a paint job on it just like this. And it was cool because you can use the bar, it floats. But you know, I'm like, oh, I wish I had my Steinberger back. So this is like probably 2003, 4, maybe I think 2003. I'm on eBay one night, okay, and I see a picture of this guitar, and I'm like, oh man, that looks like mine. And I couldn't remember the dude that bought it from me. I sold it on eBay. And I'm looking at it, I'm reading the description, and the guy's like, yeah, I've had the guitar for a couple years, I just never use it, whatever. And I'm looking at Club, like, holy crap, that's my guitar. So I messaged the guy, all right? At the time, you could send like an email to a user. They lock you down now, they restrict you, you can contact them, you gotta do it through eBay. At the time, back then, you could actually send them an email directly and kind of skate around eBay, which isn't right. I'm not saying it's right, it's just you could do that. So I was like, whoa, I want that guitar back, and I was in a situation where I could afford it. I think the guy wanted like wanted $2,600 for it at the time. So I messaged him, hey, this is Rob Johnson. I think I'm the one that sold you this guitar years ago. And he got right back to me, and he was like, yeah, you were, Rob. Hey, how you doing? And I'm like, dude, I want that guitar so much. I didn't even have to ask him for it. He goes, listen, he goes, you can have it for the price you sold it to me for, $2,000, and I'm gonna throw in a Steinberger gig bag. So I got a bag out of it, and I didn't even give him that because I didn't have it at the time. And he said the guitar probably has maybe an hour's play time on it since you sold it to me. And he goes, I bought it on an impulse buy. I always wanted one, but he goes, I just don't play that kind of guitar. He was more of a, you know, like a Rickenbacker, you know, type player, you know, played a lot of Johnny Cash, stuff like that. He wasn't a Van Halen guy. He just saw it. He was like, whoa, I think he saw Van Halen in 5150 tour and just impulse bought it. And he said it was more of a showpiece than anything else, so the thing didn't even, you know, it was in great condition. So I got it back, and that's a cool story. You know, it's very rare to sell a guitar to someone that you don't know, you know, and then be able to get it back years later on just a you know, like on a chance like that. You know, if you sell the guitar to somebody and you know, and you're like, hey, if you ever sell it, let me know. That's different. But I had, you know, I never thought I was going to see this thing again, and just matter-of-factly pops up. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise, and you know, barring you know, an emergency with my kids or something, I hope I never have to sell it again. So that is the story. So let's just go through the questions real quick and just see what we got, and we'll get ready to end it. What do you think of the current import Steinbergers? I didn't mind the ones I played. I like them. I really like them, Ben. There's the TransTrem type guitars they make now are not quite like that. They're a little different. They call like a what do they call them? Like a it's different. It's like a moving capo that goes up and down. I forget the name of it. So you guys will pipe in and tell me. But you know, other than that, I like the guitars. I haven't played them a lot, but I've seen a couple of them. And I've always been a fan of the Steinbergers. I really have. I think it's a genius design. not just the TransTrem, even the S-Trems. It's a great design. The headless guitars are cool. The other Steinbergers, the fuller bodies, you know, I like them. They have the notch in the bottom so the bridge can float, you know. They're really a cool design, and they're very, very well made. Steinberger guitars are very well made, you know. Had the same experience with a custom Strat. Literally brought it back from the guy I sold it. Bought it back from the guy I sold it to for a line more, but worth it. Absolutely, isn't that amazing when that happens? It really is. Serendipity, yeah, exactly, exactly. Ned Steinberger's a genius. Yeah, yeah, and he is. And you're right, Ben. I mean, there's really no TransTrems these days. They do this. Gosh, what do they call that thing? Guys, help me out. What's the? It's not a TransTrem, but it's it's the Steinbergers they're making now with this adjustable trem. It's like a TransTrem, but it's like more like a moving capo. I forgot the name of those things. That doesn't matter. They're out there though. But the TransTrem was just a really genius design. It was something that nobody had ever really thought of, and it was way ahead of its time. And Eddie pretty much just used and abused it, and squeezed every freaking note and weird sound squeal, you know, he could out of them, and it was the coolest freaking thing ever. And I remember hearing, you know, an interview with Sammy and a couple of other people that said when they saw Ed play this thing, they were just like, whoa, and they never seen anybody do anything with it like that. You know, I mean, Ed just has that way of picking up an instrument, like I said, with that mindset of what else can it do, you know. And hey, John, what's going on, buddy? What else can it do, you know? And that's the genius part of him, you know. Yeah, I know. I can't remember it. It's like it begins with an S, like a. I don't even want to say it because I forget. It doesn't matter. But because we're talking about the TransTrems and stuff like that, but yeah, I mean, Eddie just has that knack to him, you know. He always has, and the music that he wrote with the things is just ingenious. Like I said, Get Up is just phenomenal, so it really is. But well, pretty much that's it, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, I should say. That is the video on the Steinberger guitar and the history of this particular model guitar and Ed, with Ed's playing with his albums and some of the other Steinbergers that he's used. It really is. It's a great guitar, and you know, like I said, I mean, I just thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, man. I just really love. That's what I'm gonna do, John. I'm gonna play you guys out. I just really love locking it up and, you know, just hitting that chord, you know, and then the pick slide. That's about it. So, Steinberger GL2T TransTrem, one of Eddie Van Halen's most famous guitars. Faceplate painted by a gentleman named Jim O'Connor, and the guitar originally set up and restored by famous Jeff Babbitt's, former Steinberger employee and Steinberger TransTrem wizard. So that's pretty much the story on this guitar, guys. I hope you guys liked the video. We'll be doing another one really soon. there's like a million guitars we could do one on, but we've knocked out the 5150, we've knocked out the Steinberger, we've knocked out the Neptune guitar, we've knocked out the little guitar 2007 Frankie. We've talked about the Fernandez Sustainer guitars, although we could probably do an in-depth thing on that. I'd like to do a video, part 2 on the 5150 at some point because that's so huge. But we'll go through everything, guys. We'll do a nice long video on the Frankie someday. I'll compile a bunch of videos and the Shark, and you know, another good one that I'd like to talk about is a 1984 Kramer, because that's one that doesn't get a lot of chatter on it. And as far as we know, Wolfgang owns that guitar. That's the good enough guitar. So if you guys have any other questions on this guitar, or something that I missed, or something that you guys wanted to talk about, please send me a message on YouTube, or for those of you that have my number, just send me a text or call me or whatever. But that's a great guitar. It really is. The Steinberger, I love it. It's a lot of fun. It's hard to play. It really is. It's so light. It feels like you're air guitaring it all the time. So, like I said, I'm always trying to catch the neck because it's so light. It always wants to go back on me because it's so light. It's like it's floating away. So I'm always trying to like grab it. Some people don't have that problem, but for me, it's hard to play. Standing up, it's probably a little bit different, but it is very well balanced. It really is. You know, really cool guitar. Obviously, I put the eye bolts in. Some people would say that's totally sacrilegious, but hey, I'm an Eddie fan, so. So, all right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Let me just make sure we don't have any more questions. Nocturnal Butterfly, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much, guys. I love you guys all, everybody that watches these shows and checks them out. I really appreciate it. It's fun doing them, and it's fun because you guys enjoy it. I just love talking about it, and I love. Apparently I'm spraying spit all over the place too, but I love talking about it, and I love, you know, the questions that I get from you guys, and quite frankly, like I said, I learn a lot from you guys, because every once in a while you guys will say, hey Rob, what about this? Or I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, or oh, I didn't know that. So it's cool. We're all kind of helping each other, honestly, and that's what it's about. Thank you, Ben. I'm looking forward to Sunday. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. James, yeah, check it out from the beginning. It's kind of a fun video, absolutely. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, again, have a wonderful Wednesday night. Thank you for watching. I really love doing this, and like I said, we'll get a little bit more professional as time goes on, and anything you guys want to see, any guitar in particular, let me know, and we'll set it up. We'll do a specific video on it. And like I said, we're going to do more stuff than just guitars too. We'll talk about amps. We'll talk about his settings during tours. I've got so many people that want to talk about Ed's balance sound and the balance tour, and you know, how his sound changed through the years. We'll talk about effects. We'll talk about all kinds of stuff that you guys want. And I also want to do some personal fitness videos too, for folks that are looking for stuff. So we'll have some fun with that. So everybody, have a great night.